There we go. All right, well, a good Tuesday afternoon to you, Central Georgia. Obviously, a lot of headlines with the potential for some winter weather as we head into the late portion of this week and into the beginning of your weekend. So I'm here to break down what we have so far, the latest model runs according to long range, starting to get a little bit of a glimpse on our short range future view, which has a little bit better resolution, and some graphics that we've received from the National Weather Service about probabilities of snow, ice, all of those fun things that come with winter weather. So we don't see it very often here in Central Georgia. We're going to continue to keep you updated as we continue to get a better idea of the potential impacts that we will see here late this week. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and show you our long-range future view model. You've been seeing us use this throughout our shows. This gives us a good idea of just a general timing of some rain way ahead of time past those 3 days that future view really does go. So we have the GFS in the green and the European in the blue right there. I want to preface that this is going to be the precipitation rate, so how hard the precipitation is going to fall. This isn't going into specific types of precipitation, whether that's a snow or a rain mixture or just snow or rain, and we will get into that in just a second. But I want to go ahead and show you the general timing that we have from our long-range models. We'll play it out. This right now, I do believe is trending a little bit later than when we'll actually see this. This is 2 p.m. right here, and it shows widespread rain all across the state of Georgia in the form of some precipitation. We play it over forward into 10 p.m. on Friday night, where it looks like we're going to get the heaviest rain. Like I said, this seems to be trending a little bit behind what everything else is saying. And then sometime during the day on Saturday, we could still be left with a little bit of rain, whether it's frozen or whether it is just a very, very cold rain. And then this system that we have is going to continue to exit off the Atlantic coast by about the midday hour on Saturday. Now, I want to go ahead and preface that we're continuing to keep an eye at where this center of low pressure is going to go. If it follows further up to the north like it's forecasted to do right now, that's going to give us more of that very cold rain, maybe a wintry mix the further north that you live. But if this system is to trek further down to the south, we're more than likely going to see maybe some more winter weather mixed into the chat. We're talking more North Georgia, the further north that you live here in Central Georgia. And I'll show you what I mean by that as we take it into the short range future view. So I'm taking it all the way to Friday already. This run right here, the graph model, which we use every day in our forecast, this goes out until 4 a.m. right now on Friday. So over the course of this evening, we'll continue to see all of this weather you see on the left side of the screen creep closer and closer to Central Georgia. So I'm going to go ahead and try to point out what I see right now. Obviously, this can still fluctuate as it makes its way into Central Georgia. This is an entirely different atmosphere than what's present over here. So you can definitely see these blue and white colors. That's going to be your snowfall. That's on the further north end of this low pressure system. And then this pink color that you kind of see in between the green and the blue, that's going to be your wintry mix, your freezing rain, your sleet, that rainfall that maybe gets to the ground and freezes, or that rainfall that does freeze just before hitting the ground, doesn't come down as snow flurries. And then further down to the south, you just have that very, very cold rain, which is really unfortunate, is probably about the coldest that rain can get before hitting some type of winter precipitation. But you can see this is following suit to what our long-range models do have. And before I get into that, I want to preface this by showing you our morning lows that I have forecasted. This is as of this morning. We're definitely going to see some fluctuation with this, but I want to point out already, it's going to be cold the next 3 mornings, but Friday morning, that morning low, so the coldest temperature that we hit, going to be around 7 a.m., 7:30, right around when the sun does rise. I have a forecasted low of 25 right now. So this is 7 degrees below that freezing temperature mark of 32 degrees. So typically, if we do see any of this precipitation run into Central Georgia around the 7, 8 a.m. hours, it has a higher chance of being some winter precipitation, as that's when temperatures will be their lowest below freezing temperature. If we head a little bit further into the morning, say 9, 10 a.m., temperatures are going to warm back up closer to that freezing temperature mark, but we only have a high forecasted of 40 on Friday afternoon. So we're not going to see too much fluctuation with the temperatures, but it is worth noting the more that we get into the day, the more those temperatures will begin to warm up. So now probably what you want to see, these long-range future views, this is going to be the precipitation type. And I'm going to show you the European model and I'm going to show you the American model, the GFS. This is 7 a.m. on Friday. So that window when I was saying those temperatures are going to be at their coldest, We're starting to see some pink colors creep into central Georgia, and maybe even a little bit of that white color get very close. So we very well could look at rain starting in the form of frozen precipitation or just that pesky, really cold rain around the 7 a.m. window according to this model. And then by the time we get to about 10 a.m., that's when we're looking at more coverage of all this rain or the frozen precipitations all over central Georgia. It's looking pretty confident according to what we've had yesterday, what we've had as of this morning, that we will see some kind of wintry mix here in central Georgia as we go throughout Friday morning. But then notice as we go into the afternoon, all of that frozen precipitation starts to creep a little bit further to the north, and we're just left with a really cold rain here in central Georgia. That's because those temperatures are going to be reaching their warmest during the afternoon hours on Friday, so the chances of maybe a snow flurry shower or some freezing rain definitely go down, and they get pushed further to the north where those cooler temperatures do remain that are closer to 32 degrees. Then we go into the overnight hours on Saturday. If we still have some rain lingering, our low I have forecasted for Saturday morning is exactly on freezing temperature. Once again, this can fluctuate just a little bit, and if it goes in the downward direction, we could look at a better chance of still seeing a wintry mix onto Saturday. I have a higher confidence of any winter weather that we do have is going to happen on Friday morning, just because the temperatures will be a lot lower below freezing temperature in the forecast. And then after that, as we head throughout the afternoon, system exits stage right over off into the Atlantic Ocean, and then we are left with clear sunny skies as we end the weekend. But I'm going to show you the ice accumulation map according to that European model right here. You're not going to see much, but obviously, if you've known from past experience, it doesn't take much ice to disrupt things, especially on the roads. This is looking like maybe about an inch or 2 inches, but this is all north of us here in central Georgia, maybe clipping some of our northern counties, Monroe County, Jasper County. But obviously, it looks like the consensus is any ice that does accumulate is going to be further up to the north. Not saying that we can't get our ice down here, but it definitely looks like the confidence remains that it will be more towards the metro Atlanta area or even up towards Athens in northeast Georgia. So now let's take it over to the American model, the GFS. This is showing you the precipitation types once again. Good confidence that that pink color, that wintry mix, is going to be somewhere in central Georgia around the 7 to 8 a.m. window early on Friday morning. The snow flurry showers remain kind of situated around the Atlanta metro area up in the North Georgia mountains. Not looking like this model is really thinking that we'll get our fair share of snow showers here. But it is good confidence that we'll see some form of wintry mix as we go throughout the morning hours into midday on Friday. Now we take it into Friday evening. Like I said, when temperatures are going to be a little bit warmer, going to be a pretty cold rain here in central Georgia. And then we take it on into Saturday morning. So like you just saw with the European model, that was hinting at maybe some winter precipitation trying to drape on down as temperatures are getting cold again around Friday or Saturday morning. This is looking like we're going to see most of the rain move off the Atlantic coast, but this is a low pressure center with some counterclockwise spin. So what that's going to do, it's going to cause the circulation in this direction that my hand's moving. So you could get some wraparound moisture that could propel maybe some snow showers that try to creep down from the North Georgia mountains. Not much confidence that this will come to fruition according to the GFS model. So now let's take a look at that ice accumulation according to the GFS. And this is even further north of central Georgia and extending to the northeast in kind of northwest South Carolina around the Charlotte area, even upwards to about 2/10 to 3/10 of ice accumulation around Atlanta, Athens, Gainesville, further up in the north of the state. So the probabilities of ice accumulating are looking pretty low according to these long-range models. And again, this is just two out of many model runs that you can look at. So obviously, these are the ones that we typically use for our long-range models. They typically give us a really good idea, especially forecasting an extended period of time out. And that's where they stand right now. But I want to go ahead and show you these probability graphics that we have from the National Weather Service. I'm going to see if I can take this full screen for you real quick right there and maybe give you a better picture. I hope that's popping up on the Facebook stream. Ansley, if you could actually pop up that Facebook stream, let me know if this is getting taken full screen. The National Weather Service just sent us these out, so obviously we're going to try to get it into a more readable graphic, if you will. But you'll see this is the probability of ice accumulation, so that's going to be 1/10 of an inch, and it looks like it's following suit with what those long-range models said. All right, good to know that you guys can get a better picture of this. Down here in central Georgia, you'll start to see maybe a 20%, a 16% in Warner Robins, 26% up in Eatonton. like I said, the consensus is the further north that you live, you have a greater chance of seeing some kind of winter weather, whether that's that mix or whether it is a couple of snow flurries. But it looks like the greatest confidence, around 40%, maybe 42%, will be to our north in the northern portion of the state of Georgia. And this is for the probability of ice. So that still means there's about a 60% chance that that doesn't come to fruition, and that's better than 50-50 odds right there. So probability of snow, right there you can see the probability of snow is still further to the north of us here in central Georgia, but the probabilities are even lower here in central Georgia. Maybe about a 19% chance of getting an inch of snow here in the Macon area. We could see a couple of flurries, but it's more likely than not, even if we do get snow and we really do drop that temperature down, it's not going to accumulate whatsoever. So hopefully that's not going to lead with many complications with the roads and such. So I'm going to flash it back over to these long-range models right here for the precipitation type. So right now you see that further down to the south, don't really pay attention to the timing of this. I'm going to take it back to myself right here real quick. You'll see further down to the south, you're going to get these green colors, and the further north that you start going, you get the winter stuff, you get all of the snow showers way further to the north. We just had a system like this roll in as of yesterday. We had a low pressure center that passed us to the north in Tennessee, moving into Virginia, North Carolina. Well, we had a cold front that draped down from it. That's what brought those line of showers as we woke up yesterday morning. This system, that center of low pressure, looks to be further down to the south. So that's why we have the greater probabilities of seeing that winter weather here in the state of Georgia, because on the northern side of that center of low pressure, as it treks across the country, that's where temperatures are typically colder. So the north side of that center of low pressure is going to be where you see your winter weather. We're still trying to nail down exactly where that center is going to go. Right now, it's looking like it is going to pass pretty close to us here in central Georgia. What that's going to do, it's going to push more moisture and create a slightly warmer atmosphere, just warm enough to where we don't have that winter weather here in central Georgia. But if that center of low pressure is to say, maybe start to move a little bit further south, maybe cross on the Florida Panhandle in northern Florida along the state line, that would increase the chances of winter weather here in central Georgia because we would be on the northern side of that low pressure. So that's something we're still trying to fine tune just a tad bit, and I'll flash it back over to the end of our future views. So this is all we have as of right now. This is about 4 a.m. on Friday, and it's looking pretty accurate of what those long-range models are saying. We're looking at maybe a wintry mix if it is to trek directly eastward. Obviously, we'll see a little fluctuation with this path over the next 72 hours, but the winter weather, the snow showers still look to mainly be in our northern corridor, if anything, mainly in North Georgia is what I do believe. So as it stands right now, I made a couple bullet points just to kind of sum everything up. According to the latest data that we do have, according to this, obviously, like I said, I know winter weather is a big deal here. I've lived here myself for 24 years, so we've only had our handful of snow showers ever in my lifetime, maybe 2 or 3. Can definitely count it on one hand. So what to expect as of this morning? The chances for some form of winter precipitation are increasing. That has been the case over the last couple of days. We were pretty uncertain about it. We didn't really think that it was going to come to fruition a couple days ago, but the models still have been trending pretty consistent even with what they were over the last couple of days. And it's looking like we're getting some form, whether it's going to be maybe a few occasional snow flurries, whether it's going to be that freezing rain that's going to create messy conditions, or it's just going to be a really, really cold rain that maybe freezes at the surface. So some form of winter precipitation, the chances are increasing, still not quite set in stone. We're looking for more of a wintry mix. That's definitely where I think the trend is going a little bit more. So freezing rain, that's going to be rain that falls from the sky, and once it hits the surface, it starts to freeze over because the surface is so cold. Or sleet, and that's going to be that freezing rain as well, just rain falling from the sky, but it forms into little ice pellets before it does hit the surface. So a little bit of discrepancy between the two, essentially the same thing. It's basically rainfall or precipitation that starts to freeze the closer it gets to the surface. But flurries are still possible, so we very well could see our fair share of snowflakes going around some areas in central Georgia. If we do see that, it's not going to accumulate to much. So don't go buying a sled and thinking you're going to walk out to a winter wonderland on Friday morning. Any snow showers that we do get is not going to accumulate much whatsoever. But there is a greater chance of that frozen precipitation the farther north you live. So maybe up here in Bibb County, getting on up into Jones County, Monroe, Jasper, Putnam, those counties that I was showing you with a greater probability of seeing some form of winter weather. It's going to be the further north that you live. The closer you get to Atlanta, the closer you get up to the North Georgia mountains, because you're going to be on that north side of the low pressure that is going to be creating all of this weather as it moves into central Georgia. So let me go ahead and try to take a look at some of the comments. I know I've seen a lot of comments about black ice and such. I did just show you the ice accumulation maps. I don't really think that's going to be a huge concern as of right now. That can definitely change, but I will go ahead and say that paying attention to the forecast this evening and tonight with Ben Jones is going to be crucial for that first look. Once we get it on the higher resolution models, that really gives us a really good idea of the potential impacts, maybe how much accumulation we're seeing of certain forms of precipitation. And we're continuing to kind of generate some graphics to give you guys a better idea of that. So let me see if I can pop it up here. And all right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning to all of you. Good afternoon, maybe morning for some of you. Probably not much. Looks like we're going to miss this. Sorry, I'm late. Wintry weather possible on Friday. Not Jasper County. Like I said, Jasper County, those counties further to the north in central Georgia, you have a greater chance. Still not set in stone, but I would bet on some kind of wintry mix as it stands right now with all the latest model run data. Down in Houston County, a little bit less of a chance in terms of seeing that winter weather. Definitely can't rule it out. Will we see it in Macon County? So we're continuing to trek a little bit further down to the south. So yes, I do believe once you get down into Macon County, your chances are getting a lot slimmer for seeing the winter weather. Definitely not zero whatsoever. So, and I know a lot of you are hearing all of this, and we don't get winter weather very much. Just use this as a preparation tool. You don't need to go out and go bombard the egg section and bombard the bread section at the grocery store. We're still looking at maybe some potential ice impacts, but yes, we're still going to continue to get a better idea, especially as we go throughout tonight. This is just kind of the first look at it as we're going into the next 72 hours. We're going to continue to fluctuate with this forecast a good bit, especially with what those temperatures are going to be as of Friday morning, what they're going to be on Saturday morning. Are we looking at the track of that system to go a little farther north, or are we looking at it to go a little farther south? There's still some details we have to fine tune, but I would say right now a wintry mix is looking fairly likely. And as I showed you on the ice accumulation maps, we're not looking at the accumulation of ice right now, so that's really limiting the concerns for things like black ice and making the roads a nasty concern. But still, you definitely need to use caution, especially if it is raining already on your way out the door, because once you start to get the puddling up of water and such, and temperatures are really low, you could run the risk of maybe seeing some puddles of ice. Let's see. I don't think the weatherman can control where it's sent. That is exactly right. I wish I could, because if I could, I would send us a nice brief snow shower, no ice concerns whatsoever. I would make sure I was looking out for all of you, but hey, I'm just the messenger. So y'all better get out and empty the food shelves. Y'all better not. I just told you, don't do that. Save food for people. Okay, I see a lot of you are asking about going to get food and such. Like I said, this is not an Armageddon situation. This is just our first look at it. I do believe with confidence right now that it's going to be some kind of wintry mix, and I don't think we're going to have the accumulation of much ice, but we're still continuing to get a better idea. So like I said, tuning in this evening with Ben Jones is going to be pretty crucial to getting that first look at our future view model run. So to see how much or how long really that wintry mix or some of those snow showers may stay around here, especially in our northern corridor. How will I spend my time if it snows? I will be right here covering all of the fun that morning, because I will be working Friday morning, so I'm very excited. How much snow and ice will Culloden get? I think Culloden has a chance right now. We're still talking probabilities. We're not talking exact amounts of snow and ice. Like I said, once we get it on the short range model runs, we'll be able to get a better idea of the specific details areas will get, and we'll be able to give you a better idea of the accumulation of such. But as it stands right now, our long range models, they didn't have any ice accumulation down here in central Georgia whatsoever. Maybe a tad bit creeping into our northern counties, but as it stands right now, more often than not, it looks like most of central Georgia won't see any accumulation of it as it stands right now. Let's see here. Will the precipitation warrant road preparedness by city crews. If we're continuing to see this trend and maybe some accumulation of ice, then it definitely would warrant some work by the city crews, but we're not telling anyone to do that right now. Obviously, we're getting our long range, our first look at that, and they're not even saying ice accumulation whatsoever. So it's probably just going to be a very, very cold rain, and some of that could cause for maybe a little bit of ice out and about on the ground, but right now we are not looking at that ice accumulating whatsoever. All right, I'm going to choose to ignore the milk, bread, and water comments because I've already made my opinion stated on that. How much mix will Sandersville get? Sandersville, a little bit higher up in central Georgia, northward, so that's where we're looking at Sandersville to have more of a probability of seeing some kind of wintry mix. I'm going to flash it back to these precipitation type maps. And once again, these are not high resolution maps. These are just giving you a rough idea maybe of some areas. This may be thinking that a wintry mix will drape into our northern counties, a little bit further to the south possibly. Again, this isn't high resolution. This is definitely giving you more of a general idea that winter precipitation is probably pretty likely as we go throughout the morning hours on Friday. Once we go further to the north, that's where you're looking at maybe your snow showers and such. And like I said, as we go throughout the afternoon hours on Friday, I'm kind of reluctant to believe this model a little bit because it still has a lot of this wintry mix in our northern counties basically all day long. I'm not really sure I'm buying that because I have a high temperature of 40 on Friday. So if we creep closer and closer to that high temperature mark around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when we're really looking at this wintry mix to kind of go away. It's going to be a very, very cold rain, but temperatures are not going to be conducive for freezing any of that whatsoever unless the ground really stays a lot cooler, which I don't believe is going to be the case. And then as we go into the nighttime hours, still may be some wintry mix in the northern portion of the state, northern counties here in central Georgia. That's the European model, and the GFS model right here, the American one, you can see that it has basically the same thing. Maybe not as high of resolution even as the European model, but still hinting at the winter mix as we go into the northern counties. So like I said, that wintry mix, I know I keep saying it a lot and many of you probably wondering what I'm talking about. That's going to be your freezing rain and your sleet. So in the form of precipitation, you have 4 ways that it can fall. It's rain, it's sleet, it's freezing rain, and then it is snow. Snow is water particles that freeze higher up in the atmosphere and they fall from the sky completely frozen. Freezing rain and sleet, they're going to fall from the sky as a liquid. They're still going to fall as that water, but once they hit the ground, and then they may start to freeze over. That's going to be your freezing rain. Sleet is where those water particles are going to freeze just before they hit the ground, maybe little ice pellets as they do hit the ground. So that's kind of your wintry mix. That's what is going to fall under that category. And then rain, we all know rain, that is water falling as a liquid, hitting the ground as a liquid and not freezing whatsoever. And we still have a very good chance of probably seeing a very, very cold rain. Like I said, the coldest that rain can get without turning into some form of winter precipitation. So I'll flash up the bullet points once again. These are the big headlines I want you to take away. If you don't take anything away from what I just said, these 3 points are where it stands as of right now at the 11 a.m. hour here on this Tuesday. So we're still about 72 hours out, a little less than that. Chances for some form of winter precipitation, they are continuing to increase, especially with our long-range models. Going to get a glimpse of our short-range, high-resolution future view model here shortly. And then looking more like a wintry mix. I have more confidence in that than anything because we are going to be here pretty close to the center of low pressure as it stands right now. I think any type of snow flurry showers are going to be mainly in North Georgia, but we can't rule out a couple flurries that do fall a little bit steadily in our northern counties. Greater chance of frozen precipitation, like I said, the further north that you live. So those areas probably need to be on the lookout a little bit more. You would have more implications for this forecast than, say, areas down in Dodge County, Wilcox County, Criss County, our far south corridor. And like I said, it's going to depend on 2 things. Number one, what those temperatures are when that precipitation does start falling. If it's closer and closer to freezing temperature, then you're probably looking at more of a wintry mix. But if we're still well into the 20s, maybe this rain starts trending earlier, maybe around 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. That's when our temperatures are going to be the lowest, down in the 20s, so you have the better chance for some winter precipitation. So we're looking out for the timing over the next couple of days and also where that center of low pressure is going. Right now, it's looking like it's going mainly through central Georgia, maybe just to the south of us. But the further south that center of low pressure treks, that means more winter weather on the northern side of that center of low pressure will creep down into central Georgia. But as it stands right now, it looks like we're barely on the north side of that center of low pressure, and the chances of a wintry mix are the greatest. So Ansley Parker is going to be live at midday with the latest update on 13 WMAZ. I'm going to continue to be very vigilant about posting on Facebook. We all will here on the 13 WMAZ team, and we're continuing to communicate constantly to obviously give you a better idea of what to know before you head out the door on Friday or not. And obviously Ben Jones will be in later on this evening. He's going to have that first look at the high resolution models that are really going to give us a good idea of the potential impacts and maybe specific impacts for some counties here in central Georgia. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I thank you for joining me. And once again, we're probably going to be doing this tomorrow afternoon and Thursday afternoon. So we'll continue to go live here on our Facebook stream, YouTube stream, in order to give you the latest data that we do have that's up to date and give you a better idea of what to expect on Friday. So thank you for tuning in, and Ansley Parker, we'll see you at midday.